All right, you guys, this week's challenge is to try a new kind of noodle. We're going to start with Zoodles. These are raw and gluten-free, and you will need a spiralizer. So I'm showing you the spiralizer that I have. You can find these online. I bought mine on Amazon.com. And if you don't have a spiralizer or turning slicer, you can just use a vegetable peeler to cut ribbons of noodles from your zucchinis. Now, I'm going to show you the real key, no matter what you're using, is to sop the juices from the zucchinis up with a paper towel. So grab a paper towel, that's really a key. Now I'm showing you how I use my spiralizer, what it looks like. And again, I'm actually going to only end up using 2 of those summer squash. But the key is, again, to set it up so that your noodles, whether you're using a spiralizer or a vegetable peeler, are going to fall on a paper towel to absorb some of the excess liquid. So you just cut your zucchini in half, attach it to your spiralizer. You want to center the middle section right there that I'm doing right now, center it in the middle of the zucchini. And then just kind of hold on gently to the bottom and turn. Again, all of them are different, so mine might look a little different than yours. But you just turn and turn and turn. Now I'm going to show you a big key here is these make long noodles. So you want to detach the noodles that you've made every once in a while. Don't just keep turning and turning and turning, or you're going to get a really crazy long noodle. So turn, and then every once in a while detach. Of course, you can also grab your noodles if you find an extra long one and just break it apart into a couple of pieces, because it's just hard to eat if they're that long, as you can see. All right, so you're going to want to continuously spread out those noodles on your paper towel so that the paper towel absorbs the excess moisture. And when you're done, when you reach the end of what you can spiralize, just set aside that little stump. And my husband is being silly there. Uh, Keep going until you're done and you have this sufficient amount of noodles for your family. Here I'm going in fast motion, just showing you fast, fast, fast how it looks. Be sure again to break up the noodles so they don't turn into one crazy long noodle. And my husband is helping me with that task. And you might find that it gets off kilter. If it gets off center, then just break off the stump or the little wiggly bit, chop it, and then recenter it. If it gets off center, it's not going to spiralize as well. So recenter it on the turning unit. All right, and we keep going. And you can see that I got all of this noodleage from just 2 summer squash. And that's actually enough to make a big bowl of pasta salad or zucchini pasta salad for me and my family. And you can see them there. Beautiful. Now, this is really another key element to draw out the excess moisture, is to sprinkle on about a 1/4 teaspoon to even a 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt over all of the noodles, and then place an extra paper towel gently on the top, pat it on gently, and just let it absorb. All right, now we're going to prepare the dressing. Now, I use a really good balsamic, which you can see on the left. It's a very thick and nice sweet balsamic. If you have one that's not quite as thick and sweet, just use regular balsamic, which is the one that you can see in the middle of this photo, and add a little bit of honey, or you can use pure maple syrup. Okay, these are the dressing ingredients. Very simple. We have some of that good quality balsamic, some mustard, pepper, salt, 1/2 a lemon, and some olive oil. Now I use about twice as much olive oil as I do balsamic. So in this recipe, I'm using actually about 1/3 of a cup of the balsamic because I'm going to make a lot of dressing, partially to marinate some chicken. This is about 2/3 cup of that nice olive oil. And there's my cat. Terrible to have a cat on the counter, right? Sorry about that. And then we're going to use 1/2 a lemon, which I'll show you in a sec. There we go. We're going to juice 1/2 of a lemon. And it's a fairly large lemon. So if you're making as much as I am with 1/3 cup of the balsamic and 2/3 cup of olive oil, you might use a full lemon if it's small. And just pour that juice right in. Then you're going to use about 2 teaspoons for the recipe that, excuse me, here's salt, not 2 teaspoons of salt. Use a generous pinch of salt, probably about 1/2 teaspoon up to 1 teaspoon for the recipe I'm showing. About 2 heaping teaspoons of mustard, and then a generous amount of ground black pepper. Now, the next step is optional, but my family really likes onions. And so I minced up, I should say, some onions for the pasta salad. So I'm gonna add about 1 tablespoon of these minced onions to my dressing and screw the lid on and just shake it like crazy. Shake, shake, shake. Then, when you're done shaking, you're going to remove the paper towel from the top of the Zoodles. See how it's absorbed a lot of moisture, and the bottom paper towel has also removed quite a bit of moisture. This is really going to help make your Zoodles not be soggy, which is something that can happen quite easily in this type of recipe. Now we add all of our pasta salad ingredients: sun-dried tomatoes, some more diced or minced onion, some olives. Of course you could slice them up, but I'm just being lazy there. Some red peppers chopped, sweet bell peppers, some artichoke hearts, quartered artichoke hearts that I then chopped up, and some fresh herbs. You can use really any combination of fresh herbs, but basil, cilantro, parsley. In this I used parsley and basil. And then you pour on about half to even 2/3 of the dressing, and then you save the rest for marinating chicken. That's of course completely optional. Now you use tongs to gently kind of twist to stir this together. It's very, very delicate really, so you want to be careful. I highly recommend using tongs. Like kind of a squeeze, gentle squeeze, and a twist. And look how good this looks when it's all done. You just stir everything in, and it's best when it's been refrigerated. So just know that you'll stir it all together, again saving some of the dressing for another salad or to marinate some chicken. And there it is from the top. How gorgeous is that? And be sure again to seal it up tight with some plastic wrap. I like to put plastic wrap on the top and press down to let all the air out, and refrigerate it for up to overnight. Probably no longer than that, but it's great to make in the morning and have for dinner. Now I want to share with you my family's most favorite way to eat this salad, and it's kind of a pizza inspired salad. So here, this salad has been in the fridge for about 8 hours, and I am serving it with kind of a topping bar like I like to do. So not everyone in my family likes all things. My son cannot stand goat cheese or sheep cheese, but I actually tolerate it well these days. So my husband and I have cheese on ours. You can see my husband has more than I do. My son doesn't have any cheese. We all have some pepperoni. Yes, we're bad sometimes and have pepperoni, which is highly processed and definitely something that I don't recommend having often, but every once in a while it's totally okay. We also put some chopped natural ham, some walnuts, and my husband loved his with cherry tomatoes for leftovers the next day, which he brought to work with more pepperoni, cheese, and walnuts on top. Really, really great. Everyone was happy with this meal. Remember, our tips for these zoodles is don't let them get too long. Break them up and absorb excess moisture by spiralizing them onto a folded paper towel, sprinkling with some sea salt to help draw out the moisture, and then place a paper towel on the top as well while you're preparing the rest of your ingredients. Now, I think that zoodles are wonderful raw, as shown in this dish, or with pesto. I have a recipe for dairy-free pesto that I'll share with you. They're also good very lightly cooked. Just put them in at the very last minute to a pan of simmering spaghetti sauce for a simple spaghetti marinara with zucchini noodles. And now we're going to talk about Shirataki noodles, a really fun alternative. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is take our Shiratakis, and this is going to serve definitely our family of 3. So take my packages. You've got to rinse them. Now I'm going to tell you, I just cut the tops off of the bags, and I'm going to tell you they do not smell the best. And you're going to rinse it just under cold running water. Okay, meanwhile, as I am rinsing, I'm making sure that my water is boiling. I have a little saucepan of water boiling on the stove, and it's getting to a boiling temperature. I'm just draining this all the way. And one thing that I really like to do, because I find that these noodles tend to be a little bit too long. And so I like to take these and either use a knife and cut it in like an X or like a plus sign, or you can use kitchen scissors and cut again in an X. So I'm cutting down toward me, and then I'm cutting sideways. And you just are getting some of the noodles. You're not going to get all of them, but it makes them a little bit more manageable as far as sides. So just cut and cut using a knife or scissors. So when the water is boiling, and it's close to a simmer, but when the water is boiling, we're going to put these in there and just boil it for about 30 to 60 seconds. It doesn't take long. It's just enough to kind of cook them, plump them up, and then you drain again completely. And then they're ready to add to your pasta sauce, which is right here. I just have a spaghetti sauce going. Or you can add it to a cold sauce like a pesto or a peanut sauce. Really, really yummy. But again, I'll show you what I'm going to do when the water's a little bit more boiling or simmering. We're going to call it close enough to boiling. So I'm just putting in my noodles, and then we are going to boil it. Because it wasn't quite all the way boiling, it was gently simmering. I'm going to let it go for 1 minute, but you can do, 30 to 60 seconds. I'd say a minute is probably ideal though. So we're going to let it go for a minute, and then I'm going to drain it all the way in here. Really shake out all the water. Okay, turning it off and draining it. Like I said, you want to really shake it all out. Try not to lose noodles like I just did. Get all the water out. And then we're going to move the whole thing over to our pasta sauce, which is how I'm making it today. Did you hear my kitty? And you just gently stir it in. Really gently fold it in. And then you can let it simmer together for another, 30 to 60 seconds, but you don't even have to. You can just serve it right away. It's ready to go. As long as your pasta sauce was done, your noodles are done. You don't need to do anything else. And to serve it, I always use tongs. Just makes it easier to get all the goodness. And here is the finished product. We had enough for our family of 3 plus leftovers. Now we used 2 packages of the fettuccine shirataki pasta. I get mine from Vitacost. And you'll see that it is not soupy or too liquidy. The key to make that happen is to drain it well. I've made shirataki pasta before where it's too liquidy and I didn't drain it well enough. That was what went wrong. So remember, rinse the shirataki noodles well, cut them, and cook per the package directions. Just be sure to drain them well so that they don't, after you're done cooking, so that they don't create a real soupy mess in the bottom of your bowl of your finished product. All right, next we're going to talk about the easiest way to make spaghetti squash, and then I'm going to share with you a recipe that is great to use with spaghetti squash or shirataki noodles or even zoodles. So here's what you do. 1 large spaghetti squash or 2 small, and you just use the entire squash. You don't cut it. You prick it a couple of times with a knife. You put it in your crock pot on low for 4 to 5 hours or on high for 3 to 4 hours. Then be careful when you remove it because it will be kind of squishy. Cut it in half carefully, remove the seeds, and scrape out the strands with a fork. You can scrape them into a bowl, and again, use these strands of noodles as you would any other pasta. So let's talk about my very favorite recipe. It is a bowl where everyone can really make their own bowl, which I'll show you in the end. Thai peanut noodle bowls, and I'm starting with some angel hair shirataki pasta, cooking it per the package directions and what I already shared with you in this video. Now I'm sauteing some chicken in coconut oil, which I heat first. After the coconut oil is hot, I add some toasted sesame oil just for flavor. I use about 1 tablespoon of coconut oil and only about a teaspoon of the toasted sesame oil for flavor. So when the oils are hot, I'll add the chicken and I'll show you I'm cooking up the chicken and the pasta at the same time here on the stove. My chicken is seasoned very simply with salt and pepper and turmeric root, and I use a really concentrated garlic powder that I love. So I'm just seasoning the chicken and cooking it as my pasta is cooking. Of course, I drain the pasta. It only takes a moment to cook. So I'm draining the shirataki pasta there and cooking the chicken at the same time. Now I just use a spatula directly in my cast iron skillet to chop the chicken into smaller pieces. I use the sharp edge of the spatula just to chop it into smaller pieces that are more manageable for our bowls. Now I'm going to show you the ingredients that I'm preparing as my chicken is cooking for the bowls: fresh herbs, basil and cilantro, red onion, red pepper, cucumber, and celery. And these are my dressing ingredients. The recipe for the peanut sauce is going to be found in your materials for the coaching club, so you'll see that there. Now I stir together my dressing ingredients directly in the pan, which is still pretty warm from the pasta that was cooking. Then just add the drained pasta directly to the sauce, stir it in, add the herbs, stir them in, really stir it around gently with tongs, it's so delicious, and then divide out the pasta between your bowls. So this serves my family of 3. Again, I used 2 packages of the angel hair shirataki to serve my family of 3. There were no leftovers this time. And these are all of our toppings. And the cool thing is that every family member can choose what they want for their toppings. So I have here all of our little bowls of pasta, our pasta bowls, with some leftover chicken in another bowl. We didn't use all the chicken. And you can see, so this one is mine. It has onion, and it really has everything. This is my husband's. It also has everything on it. Now my son, he doesn't like red onion, so it doesn't have the red onion. He can choose his own. He also loves cucumber, so it's got extra cucumber. Now, I highly recommend topping with just 2 more bonus ingredients, and that would be some toasted peanuts. And if you're not tolerating peanuts, you can also use toasted pumpkin seeds. That makes a really nice peanut alternative. And some sriracha, the rooster sauce. So delicious. This recipe is truly a crowd pleaser. Our family loves it, and you could serve it to anybody, gluten-free, paleo, grain-free or not, and they would be happy as a clam. And that weird sound you just heard was my cat, if you heard a really strange purr. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed these fun noodle alternatives, from zoodles to shirataki to spaghetti squash. Just try these wonderful low-calorie, low-carb, gluten-free alternatives just to spice things up a little bit. You won't regret it. Leave a comment in our Facebook group and let us know what you tried or what you plan to try. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.